Okay, hi everyone. I'm Christine, as Greg said, and Ben's here. He's going to jump on stage in a minute. We're Solares and Evolve, and as Greg pointed out, we're here to talk about a deep energy retrofit in Guelph. Our clients are here tonight, Suzanne and Ernst Brindley. Wave, guys, yay! So that's really special because we don't normally have clients here, so don't say anything bad. How do I move this forward? Oh, there we go. Oh, too much. Okay. So deep energy retrofit in Guelph. So it's quite interesting because we met Ernst and Suzanne actually I think almost just about 10 years ago at the Green Living Show when Tom and I were still young and good looking. And at that time they wanted to do a project with us. The stars didn't align, and we used to joke that they were the best clients we never had. About 8 years later, the stars realigned and they were ready to embark on a really exciting project. So what Ernst and Suzanne wanted to do was retire in a car-free and sustainable way. So they chose Guelph as their new home, and Guelph has got a really culturally diverse and vibrant downtown core, and they were able to snag this gem about 15 minutes walking distance from downtown that was very solid but needed a lot of work. So the house was a 100-year-old cottage, basically broken up into different rooms. There were 2 additions tacked on at later points. And this is the front yard there with the porch. And then the backyard had not a single window looking over the backyard, which was super weird. The basement was also strange. The whole back portion of the house was basically unexcavated. So that was a bit of a challenge. And the walls were almost 2 feet thick. So this is what the house looked like when you opened the front door. Keep that in your mind because we're going to look at the final photos later. So yeah, it was really quite an interesting home. 10-foot high ceilings, which was very unexpected. You know, it was really, as you can see from the photos, in clear need of work. It did have a kitchen, so that's not bad. And next slide, it had curtains. So it wasn't quite move-in ready. It did need some work. And this was one of the additions that had the only bathroom in the house. Here's a view of the back. So again, not a single window. These 2 additions we actually took off the house and didn't put back. So it's kind of a strange thing to take space away from a house, but we did it. This is the basement. There was some kind of strange like animal pen thing over here. I didn't go in it. I just took photos from afar, tried to avoid the spider webs, and a very shallow basement. So deep, thick rubble walls, and this is some of the unexcavated mess under those additions. Again, I just sort of put the camera in and took photos. Mostly just cobwebs. So our design was to open up the house, take those additions off, modernize it, and create it a real haven for this couple. So we kept the symmetry of the front door in the middle. On the southeast corner, which is at the top of the house, we had a master bedroom and a beautiful luxurious bathroom. It didn't have body jets, but a nice big soaker tub. In the southwest corner, down at the bottom right of the slide, we had a TV den, and then a big open concept living room, dining room, kitchen at the back. And you can see here that we did open up one big opening here, and we added 1 window there. So it was quite interesting. We used all the original windows, but we added 2 openings. The basement was really an overflow space. We underpinned, we created a big guest bedroom for out-of-town or out-of-country guests, and a big guest bathroom. This is the laundry, and then of course a mechanical space. So it served as really good overflow. This is the typical wall section, so it's a lot of detail. I don't think you can all come up one by one and peer at it, but the main ideas are that we underpinned, and there was this kind of weird like dog leg underpinning that we ended up with, and that's something I'll comment on later. Foam underneath the slab and then up the face of the foundation wall. And then we had foam up it was like a brick and pier structure, which Ben's going to talk about. 6 inches of foam up the walls and then 10 inches of foam under the roof. So basically a full kind of airtight foam assembly, and then a lovely new roof, and then a maintaining of the existing look on the outside. So it's actually very hard to tell that the house has been renovated when you walk past it. So just a few photos of the construction. So this is the underpinning, which was an Evolve masterpiece. We just need a signature at the bottom. And then all that foam going in with all the drains. Okay, so that's the basement. You can see through the floor where we were creating a continuous air barrier, and you can see the brick and pier here that Ben's going to talk about. Framing. This is one of the Evolve crew. And some dust in the air. And then finally spray foam and these lovely tilt and turn windows from Tiltco. So Ben is now going to take over and talk about some of the ins and outs of construction.
We were brought into this project at a reasonably early stage of the concept planning, that being, early iterations from a price perspective. My background before I started building was as a business manager, and so finances come fairly easily to me. On a project like this, and is probably true for so many of us in this room, energy modeling is an increasing part of our business or part of what we're promoting to our clients. But an energy model is only as useful as its calculation of the energy cost, and that in turn is only as useful as the capital cost to get there. So a little bit of what I'll be talking about is how, contrary to convention in terms of most efficient fuels, cost-efficient fuels, when the capital cost is very great to allow you to use those inexpensive fuels, sometimes the payback is still not there, and that proved true in this particular case. So Solares had contracted Renew Building Science out of Calgary for the original energy model. Excuse me. And that energy model, which we'll see on the next slide in just one moment, revealed a couple of things. That was that when the programming of the layout was done, and 2 or 3 different iterations of prospective building envelope designs were determined for us to price, it revealed that all of those building envelopes that we were going to be prospectively building, that the savings generated from those were so great that investing then in expensive capital equipment for more efficient delivery of heating or ventilation couldn't be proven as worthwhile from a payback perspective. So maybe if you could flip, Rob. And I'll point to maybe, for interest of time, just the bottom table as produced by Renew, and that was that while the annual operating cost looks significantly different between one system and another, this is post-construction, on an annualized basis, when taking into account capital costs, it actually is pretty much even. And there's only so much that we can ask our clients to invest for the betterment of society, which is effectively what we would have been asking if they were to invest in that more expensive upfront cost for something that did also have a similar payback in terms of greenhouse gases, but again at a personal cost. So what we what's not shown on that slide is what the result of that was that we actually further tested Renew's rough model and determined that the difference between putting in electric baseboards, which ordinarily we would consider to be a bad idea, and an air source heat pump, which was the alternate that was looked at, that payback period was even greater than they had assessed once we did some real costing of the relative installed cost. So they were showing that it was roughly even after 15 years. We were of the belief that it was going to be even more disparate than they had thought. So Christine had alluded to the construction, the underlying construction of the original house was brick and pier, which we've encountered on a number of occasions, so we thought it ordinary. But can I have a show of hands of anybody else who's ever encountered anything of that nature that's structural? So it's a brick, single wide brick with a number of piers every several feet, as opposed to more commonly double wide brick or a veneer brick. Nobody, eh? Yeah, one. So we've come to understand, so maybe our contractor 100 plus years ago worked with yours, because we've come to understand not only is it peculiar to Guelph, it's peculiar to a particular era and even a certain neighborhood. We had just encountered enough that it seemed ordinary to us, but it further affected some of the energy model expectations because the depth of wall, while it actually gave us more depth in some areas, it had a lot of potential for thermal bridging, which those of you who are passive house enthusiasts or energy modelers will understand that that actually was a net potential negative that ultimately had to be factored into the building program and the choice of materials and finishes thereafter. Also, it presented to us a number of other challenges. That was, we didn't have one flat, easy plane for our future air barrier, and also, importantly, because it isn't double-wide brick, we needed to provide for a drainage or breathable plane behind the, or to the interior face of that brick. And then coming back to that cost equation again, certainly if we were to go to the nth degree of energy efficiency, the most ideal thing for us to have done would have been to completely gut the whole of the interior house, inclusive of all the floor joists. While we're at it, we might as well have taken off the roof and just left the shell in place. But that would have meant that there wasn't much left of Suzanne and Ernst's original investment. So we had to take a look at means by which we could accomplish most of what we wanted, but at a significant retention of existing value. So an example of this would be we used the existing floor joists. That does mean that they were anchored in the foundation through the stone. It's thermal bridging, and more importantly, again, for those of you who do air barrier detailing, try and work your way around all of those, inclusive of going over the brick and over the stone, some of which Christine showed on a prior slide, and you can see a little bit of what our finished detail looked like, in that ultimately the subfloor we cut away at the perimeter that to give us access. We put in new blocking in order to give us a flat plane on which to get some of that barrier around, but we had to transition multiple times and lots of different leakage, prospective leakage points. But this was all made with the consideration that even if we had more air leakage than we might have, as purists, wished to have seen, the payback just wasn't there to take out all of that flooring system and replace it with something new. And that problem extended into the basement because, as Christine said, it was a sort of a bench-style underpinning system that was prescribed for us. So that meant, again, we don't have one even plane. And this particular image at the top, it isn't clear, but the prior image that I was just showing was of a crawl space, which leads to the full depth now, the now full depth foundation. So we also had some interior partition stone walls that are air barrier detailing somehow has to find a way up and over and down into that other cavity before finding its way up again the exterior walls. It's a little bit complex to describe in just 30 seconds, but myself and maybe I'm joined here with 3 people on our crew that participated in the build. If you guys could raise your hands so that you can identify yourselves with people who could talk to this after, that would be great. Yeah, and so effectively what it meant for us is, and this is one of the things that we present ourselves as being, I could say it, expert as, is to take complicated details and problematic details and figure out what the cost implication in terms of construction is. Because until you can overlay that with the energy model and until you can present that to the client, they really can't make good decisions on to what degree are we really going to invest ourselves.
Yeah, and Evolve did an incredible job of air sealing. So we're going to get into the ooh and ah part of the presentation. This is what the house looked like when Ernst and Suzanne bought it, and then this is the house a couple of weeks ago. So very little's changed. There's a beautiful new roof and beautiful new windows and the porch and some snow, and the porch stays the same. So this is what the house looked like when you open the front door. Ah, wow. So it's amazing what a 6-foot opening at the back of the house does. But that was really, I think probably for me, one of my most exciting architectural moments was like just an awesomely placed door. So that's looking back out the front door, and now today what it looks like. This was the den window looking out onto the front porch, and that's the den now. And then we have the master bedroom, the 2 windows there, and the master bedroom now. And then the master bedroom looking back into the master bathroom, and the master bathroom itself. These are the stairs coming up from the basement. And this awesome laundry room. This is the kitchen, and I have to pause here, and I have to point out these electrical outlets, because any architect in this room will look at that and really appreciate it, right, Terrell? That's a thing of beauty right there. Oh yeah, no, it's the angle of the screen. Well, it's a thing of beauty because you have to plan out exactly where the electrical outlet goes about 3 months ahead of the tile, and you have to know exactly that the tile is going to be right in the middle of that outlet. So the coordination and the thought is something that we have seen in our line of work from only 2 contractors, and they're both here tonight, which is fantastic. Or 3, sorry, Greg Moffat. And so that's really kind of an amazing moment architecturally. This is the kitchen looking back through the living room towards the front door. And then this is this big new door at the back of the house in the kitchen. So this was a really, I mean, they're lovely photos. Behind the drywall is where the really exciting stuff happens. And I think for me, the electric heating system was very exciting. There was a moment when Evolve, or I think it was Ernst, called the gas company to have the gas meter removed. And the gas company was like, okay, we're going to take it off temporarily for construction. When do you want it back? And he's like, no, I don't want it back. And they're like, sorry, we don't understand. Like, you're building a house, you need gas. And he's like, no, I don't need gas anymore. Thank you very much. And that was pretty cool. So Shervin wrapped this up for us today. We got an EnerGuide rating of 82. For houses of this type and of this age, the highest rating in Ontario is 83. So we almost got there. Now there's 2 areas that I kind of alluded to before. The small thermal bridge from where the basement slab was required to butt directly against our footing as a kind of a buttress. And then because we had such super thick walls in the foundation and such thin walls above, other than furring those walls out another 15 inches, we did have thermal bridging through the perimeter here. So that was a hit we took. And the amazing number at the bottom, air tightness, 1.64 air changes per hour for a renovation. So that's, I give that applause to Evolve on that one. And then there's one more slide. This was a party that Ernst and Suzanne threw in their home just before they moved in, with all of the tradespeople, all of everyone who worked on the house, which was such a great occasion. So thank you to Ernst and Suzanne.